Good morning and welcome to all of our BidBuy trainers. Thank you very much for joining us. We have a nice big audience out on the phones today. As always, if you have a question, I've been saving your questions since last week, or think of a question as we're going through the material this morning, feel free to send it over to us at any time, and we will try and assist you. So, wanted to go ahead and give you a status update. Everything is continuing to move forward as anticipated. We are in full go live, and so we don't anticipate, any new changes, anything different. Everything is going along as it's intended to work. So we're happy that everyone's on board, and for those of you who are newer to the process, thank you for joining us. I wanted to share something this morning with you. There's a couple of new things. I'm going to go over one in particular, and then for the other option that's been added, we'll provide some additional guidance next week. But some of you have noted, or if you haven't noted, you should be aware that you have the option when you're working within BidBuy of establishing your addresses, both your bill to and your ship to addresses at the header level for a purchase order and indicate that you want everything billed and shipped to the single location. You also, however, have the option of working with each line item and going through and adding a specific address for each line item. So you have multiple locations and you want to do one PO, but you want to ship items to different locations, or you may want to bill items to different locations. So you have that option, and the way BidBuy has been set up, it created a little bit of confusion. So we think what we have added will be value added for you. It's something that we have been working a long time to get added to the system. So I'm going to take you out into BidBuy this morning and show you how that works. Okay. So I'm out here in Chrome because we all know BidBuy works best in Chrome. And I am going to demonstrate this for you on a requisition. Now you can add addresses on the address tab at the rec stage, at the bid stage. I've just chosen in this particular case to start with a requisition. So when you're working on a requisition, you will have the address tab and the ability to select the addresses at this header level. So in this particular case, what I want to show you is typically in our particular organization, we had one specific department and we had one set of addresses that we could look at prior to this. You'll see now that two new options have been added. So this second option on the list, which are the blank lines, I'm not going to go into great detail on that this morning. I will go into greater detail on that next week. But the one that I wanted to talk to you about today is this one here. So you are required to go ahead and put in an address at the header level. And previously, you would have to pick an address, and you would have only had one option. If you picked an option at the header level, and then you went down on the line item, and you chose a different shipping or billing address, you would sometimes get a call from the vendor saying, I'm confused. I see a ship-to address at the top, and I see a different one related to the line item. What do you want me to do? So what we have added is the ability for you, when selecting a header level address, to be able to go in and choose this option. And this option simply says see item level address. So now there's not a conflict on print purchase orders, and it's clear where the shipping shall be. So let me go ahead and select this one as my ship to address. Over here on my bill to, I'm going to keep the standard address that we normally use, and I'm going to select that. So my ship to address up here at the header level, so see the item level address, and my bill to address is going to be my standard normal bill to address. as with anything that I do in the system, I'm going to go ahead and click Save and Continue. And I can then go out and look at my line items. So here is the line item that I have set up. And in this particular case, I can go in and I can come out to the address sub-tab. And here on that address sub-tab for this particular line item, I can choose a different shipping or billing address. So if I had multiple addresses to select from, I can select that, and I can do that on every single one of my line items. So if I had done that, if I had gone through and I had selected multiple line items and I had added specific different addresses for each one, I would save that. And then let's go out to our summary and see if this will display properly. And I'm going to come out to my summary and I'm going to click Print. And what you will then see up here, and this is still the requisition, is the information related to the ship to, which provides the instruction to see the line item level address. So, and then what you would see when you get to the purchase order stage is that line item level address would print right here related to the line item. So hopefully you will find that helpful. Like I said, I know there are many of you that have been using the line item address to indicate the various line items, and now this will just allow you at the header level to indicate to the vendor on that print purchase order to look specifically at the line item for detail. The other option that has now been added, we will provide additional instruction both in our print training materials as well as in our trainer support webinar next week. This next item is more of a summertime item than anything. One of the things that we do in these sessions is we look at what's been trending in our help desk over the past week. And in this particular case, we've had some instances where folks have left on vacation. They did not set themselves a proxy, and so now there's an issue. So this is just a reminder as we are in the midst of the summer vacation season that if you have staff going on vacation that are actively working in BidBuy, remind them to set a proxy before they leave. The proxy is that most flexible option for allowing someone else to work within the system while someone is out of the office, and it's very easy upon return for the person who set the proxy to go ahead and remove that proxy and take it off. So just a reminder, since it's summer and it's vacation time. The other item that I wanted to share again, and I know we have discussed this recently, but that is, let me get this up, the instruction to hide the bid holder list. So, and I wanted to go into a little more detail because I am continuing to see that the bid holder list is not always being hidden. And so I wanted to go into more detail with everyone and show you what happens when this option is not selected. So the intention of hiding the bid holder list is to ensure that anyone, any vendor or anyone from the general public that's registered within BidBuy who might go in and download a particular bid, that information is not displayed publicly. So you check that option in BidBuy, and this is a document at the bid stage. This is on the Bidders tab, and the option down here to select the hide bid holder list on the vendor side. So please ensure whether you're conducting the procurement or reviewing the procurement that's getting ready to be published, please do check and look that that has been selected. Now, there could be some rare instances where there could potentially be a benefit, and someone might specifically want to not select that. I really can't think of when that might occur, when you might really feel that it would be helpful to display the bid holder list, but there could be. There could be some examples that I just haven't come up with. So if there is that question and you need to have that conversation between an SPO and an agency, do have that conversation so everyone understands and is clear on the intention. But what I did want to do is show you, what we have been seeing. So, let me go out here, and I'm going to go out to our production environment. And this is where the bid holder list can be accessed. So anyone can come out to the BidBuy homepage here, click on Open Bids, and you'll see for the open bids that are currently out and published in this far column, for those that do not have the bid holder list hidden, the list is there, and you can click the link, and you can see exactly who has gone through the formal process of downloading that bid. So as I click the link on this particular one, it shows me the bid number there, and then it gives me the contact person, the name of the company, phone number, and email address for vendors who have downloaded that bid. And I don't think I need to go into a lot of great detail about why we wouldn't necessarily want to have that information publicly available. But general guidance, I believe, is hide the bid holder list. You do not want to display that publicly from the home page. It could have an effect on competition, and it is disclosing a great deal of information. So, despite having, let me open it up again, having discussed this in previous sessions, here's a bid opening date of June 11th, June 13th, June 20th. We're continuing to see bids being posted out where the bid holder list is not being hidden. Okay. There. Okay, end user support process remains the same. Everything is working really well. We still occasionally have end users contacting us directly, and when that happens, we just add on the APO, the SPO, and make sure that everyone is a part of that conversation. But here is that information in terms of the process to use when contacting the help desk. Wanted to talk briefly again about agency readiness, your continued effort to evaluate your business processes and update all of your internal procedures, continuing to evaluate your approval paths, and from what I've seen lately, there are a few changes going on, but it looks like everything is working fairly well with the approval paths. And we continue here to evaluate, sort of that statewide approval path to ensure that all the appropriate paths are being hit when they should be hit. So you may continue to see changes in that. But don't hesitate. If you ever have a question about your approval path, do not hesitate to send it over to us. Also, don't hesitate if you're looking at your approval path and you have a question about why a certain person is not on there, and you want to add them, do not hesitate to manually add them and include them on that approval path going forward. We've had discussions about the agency contract input and the load and the QA, so I'm not going to go into any detail on that particular topic. Just ensure that your approvers are trained, your staff is trained, and extremely importantly, that your registrations and your deactivations are up to date. If you have any questions about who exactly has an active registration at your agency, you can always reach out to us. But our other recommendation has always been to work with your HR department so that it becomes a standard part of HR processing, so that they're included and that they can assist you in making sure you've got plenty of other things that you're managing and working on and dealing with. So hopefully they can assist you in making sure that that's getting taken care of appropriately. Looks like I had a question come in. Oh, looks like I have a few questions. So one question going back to an earlier part of our discussion, if you're setting a proxy, does your proxy need to be registered in BidBuy? Good question. The answer to that is yes. And not only do they need to be registered in BidBuy, but they're going to need to have the same rights that you do. So you're going to need a proxy that if you're a BP user and you're looking for someone to perform BP functions, your proxy will need to have those rights in order to be able to do that. Someone said, could the direction to check hide the bid holder list be added to the job aids? I think that's probably a good suggestion. You know, and this is just a general comment, you know, in addition, or not specifically related to hiding the bid holder list. You know, our job aids, we try and walk a real careful line. We have our process manuals. Anyone who's going to be conducting procurement and learning to use the BidBuy system should be doing that with, for the most part, the information that's contained in the process manual. You know, that really is where the in-depth information is. So we're always trying to figure out exactly how much information to put in a job aid. We want to give you, you know, the best description that I've ever heard of a job aid is someone once said, you know, do you know what a job aid is? And I said, I don't know what a job aid is. And someone said, well, do you know every time you go to get gas and there's that little box next to the gas pump that's like, lift the handle, pull it out, you know, stick it in your car, and it gives you like 3 steps. It's not the full history of exactly how gas pumping works. It's just really quick steps. So we try and keep our job aids really focused on those main steps. They're really intended to be sort of like your cheat sheets. But I really think that hiding the bid holder list might be one of those things that is a good addition to the job aid, just because we're seeing so many instances where the job aids are being, or excuse me, where the bid holder list is being exposed. So we'll definitely look, I think that's a really good suggestion. Someone says, can the public view small business set-aside program only bids? No. There's no requirement for a public posting of the small business set-asides. And there's a question about an instruction on the bid holder list as it relates to sole source renewals. We'll take a look at that, thank you, and we'll verify if that information is correct in those 2 manuals. So thank you for that. Someone wants to know, when we issue a restricted bid, do only the vendors selected see the bid? That is the case. If you are saying it's a restricted bid, then only the vendors that have been selected will see that. Go ahead. Samantha, go ahead and clarify that.
The question was how do you, or I'm sorry, when you issue a restricted bid, do you only the vendors selected see the bid? Yes, that is true, but I also want to point out if you have added in there also that it's an informal bid, then it will go into the quotes tab for vendors that are in that NIGP class.
Okay, thank you. Someone says, could you add small business set-aside program or diversity status in the vendor lookup summary? I'm going to have to go out and take a look. When you are on a specific procurement and you're doing a search for vendors, you do have the options to include the BEP certified status as well as whether they have small business status, but it sounds like this question is very specific to that vendor lookup that's at the header level, so we will take a look at that. Let me write a note real quick. Okay, I have written that down. Thank you for those questions. Okay, and as always, here are all the links that we have to our help desk, to our support websites, and then always just a reminder that when you are looking for training materials, always go out and get the latest and greatest. We make regular updates to materials, and and in most cases, they are minor updates. Whenever we do anything that's major, we will definitely address that during one of these sessions, but always best to go in and get clean, up-to-date training materials when you're going to either do something for the first time or conduct training. And then location of our alternative forms, that hasn't changed, that remains the same. If you're working and you're looking for a specific form and it doesn't work, you can go out here and grab that form and then let us know. So our upcoming events are still upcoming and being scheduled. We have our ongoing vendor training. Again, we're getting some decent attendance at these sessions, but we would certainly like to see a lot more vendors attending. So, spread the word and encourage folks to come out to this website and look for and attend vendor training. And then our BEP process training and SAP orgs releasing in BidBuy training will be scheduled over the next month, so stay tuned for that. And with that, that ends the presentation for this morning. It looks like we have another question. So someone is saying, so we should not select informal bid on restricted bids then. Currently, the instructions for all small purchases is to mark it as an informal bid. We were just discussing offline this particular question to make sure we are giving you the specifically correct information about that specific combination of choices when you are choosing restricted and informal. So we're going to test that, and we'll bring back some additional guidance on that. We do have another question, and the question is, how do we verify that vendors received an email notice of bid availability? And that's a good question. So let me take you out here for a minute. Let me go out to our train environment. There we go. Okay, so let me go back to the home page here, and I'm going to look for a bid, and I'm going to come down here and look for a bid that's been sent. So one that was sent and in ready to open status. On your summary screen, once you send a bid and you have your bidders here all listed on your bidders tab, so here are the bidders that you wanted. In this particular case, it was unrestricted and hide bid holder list was selected. If you come down here and look on your summary page, what you will see down here at the bottom is the list of bidders that received an email notification, and it will be date and time stamped in terms of when and what they received. So in this particular case, all the vendors received 2 email notifications. This first one down here on the bottom was on September 14th at 8:46, excuse me, at let me look. Yeah, 14. Okay, so the first one at the top was at 9:14. At 10:56 a.m., it was a bid amendment, and another one, just the general notice, was sent out at 11:08. So there is your date and time stamp of the emails that are sent to the particular bidders related to a bid document on the summary tab. So someone says, what about a rec? Can you verify emails were sent for a rec when you're doing one that's under 10,000? So I can go out and take a look. I do believe the answer to that is yes, that, oh, that's not the one I want. Hold on just a sec. Here's one that's ready for purchasing. Let's see. We didn't have any vendors on this one. I'd have to look specifically. I think the answer is yes, that on your summary tab, if there are emails that are being sent, that will be recorded on the summary tab. I'm not able to get I can look at a couple of others and see if I can find one. Yeah, so this one, there. And let's look at our summary. And you'll see over here, here is on a requisition on the summary tab, the vendors, the vendor name, and their preferred delivery method. Something else to show you really quickly, that is something that I don't think we use as often as we probably could or should. 2 things to think about. When you want to look at the history of what has occurred on a procurement, you can come up here on the summary tab and pop up here. We find the brief history. So the brief history was on this date, it was in progress, and the user that did that, and it'll indicate the name. And in the next one, it was the status changed to ready for approval, and on the next one, ready for purchasing. So if you have some questions about the brief history of the document that you're working on, you can find that up here in the corner. Also, we have a REC approval history detail report that you can select. So typically, the default is that here on the general tab, it'll say, you know, if I'm printing, I want to print the requisition print form. I just want to print that. But you have the option on the general tab to come down here and select the approval history. If you save that, and you come down here to your summary, and you click print. you should see a detailed report of activities and approvals that have occurred. So if you had questions specifically, not just about status changes, but the actual approvals, you would see that out here in the detailed report. So just some options for you when you are looking specifically, to know what happened, when did it happen, who did what. Those are options that are available to you. Okay. Yeah, so we have a comment about the way it's recorded on the rec, that there wasn't a date and time stamp, and I will get more information on the date and time stamp on the emails for vendors. Okay. Really good questions today, and if I'm able to get any specific answers prior to our session next week, I may send out an update related to some of these questions. We'll be testing and verifying and looking for the answers to some of these. So if there are any last questions, now's a great time. So please, I will put you on hold for a little bit and see if we have any last questions coming in. Okay, thank you for all of your really good questions, and we will get updates on each of those items. And thank you for asking those questions, and thank you for attending. That's it for today. Nothing else has come through, and we will see you again next week.